Percolate on a particular mix of odd and inspiring news headlines in Wendy's Coffee House. Newsmakers with a penchant for the unknown, unexplained, and unusual share their experiences with UFOs, ghost encounters, near-death experiences, and more for your own unique blend of Wendy's Coffee House Curious.
Good morning. Hope you're having a good Saturday. Got the coffee going. Black Dog Coffee House. You can stop by and get your own. Fabulous messenger coffee is what's on tap there. And some wonderful varieties. You like the mocha, the latte, whatever. It's all there, along with some great bakery stuff, too. So kicking off the morning with a good start here. Got the coffee buzz going. Checking out the headlines. Best headline of the week for the UFO fans. NASA says, no, it did not cut the live feed. Right after that incredibly cool little white blip goes across the screen. And whether it was serendipity, which, you know, that would be the logical, oh, it just happened to cut out at that moment, or not, NASA says, no, we're not the problem. However, too late. It's already been spotted. So if you want to see it yourself, check it out. The video from the International Space Station. And you can see this little white thing. It's a little floater across the screen. And if you're following along, Scott Waring is the guy who posts this good stuff. You can follow along and see. And then it just stops. So for whatever the reason is, the UFOs are still out there. And we're still following. And not getting any confirmation from powers that be. Ghostbusters on the big screen. And there was all that talk about whether the female cast was worthy. All right. Just to prove that they are. If you've been following along behind the scenes, the original cast from 1984 is all there, except for one of them who died, I think Howard Ramos. And I'm looking at my script here, talking about the reboot. I remember seeing the behind the scenes, Dan Aykroyd, and just looking at this stuff. Looks like fun. So they're expecting, if it works, it could be a new, hopefully, franchise. All right, they need one. But that's the big screen. They have to make 144 million first. Small potatoes. Anyway, so this looks like fun. Ghostbusters now on the big screen. Go see it for yourself. Let us know if you like it or not. And then we've got another story. This is really interesting. This was just a happenstance. The accident alongside the road. Truck driver Saul Vasquez pulls over, rolls down his window. And this is Tuesday afternoon in Stanton, Kentucky. You see the ambulances, you see the crowd gathered, and he just happens to take the picture. Well, the deal is, right at that picture, there seems to be a little bit of a mist, a fog rising at the center of this crowd that's gathered here. And he said that in his post, he says, I hope everyone involved is okay, because to him it looked like this was a serious incident. And what happened, actually, was that there was a motorcycle crash. And as you look at the picture, it looks like a body shape, a body form rising right above one of the police officers in the photo. And so as the crowd is gathering and you see this little fog rising, it really does appear to be a human form. So it's, as of Thursday, I don't have the current log for it, but 7,600 times sharing on Facebook, and just, you know, a question of how amazing that was. Now, that kind of goes along. There was a earlier photo in April, the Stanley Hotel ghost. That was when a guy from the museum, I can't remember where in the U.S., anyway, had taken a picture. Just he wanted to get a cool shot of the staircase at the Stanley Hotel, and it really is it's just a really interesting place to go if you have a chance to visit it, not for the ghost, just because it's a piece of history and it has a wonderful background. Anyway, he took the picture. The staircase was empty, and that was his whole point. He wanted a picture of this beautiful, grandiose staircase. And then when he looks at the photo, there's a woman standing up at the top left of the staircase. And he's like, you know, I was not intending to get anybody in the photo. And there all of a sudden, seeing the image is a very, very clear image of a female standing on the staircase. So he says it hasn't been altered. And this guy who took the photo here also said He didn't do anything to this. He saw it, and that's exactly what he saw at the time in terms of people. He didn't see the mist, the ghost. That was invisible. So those are the fun headlines. I've got one more, and I can't remember if this is ongoing. I can't remember the deadline, the outline on this. But if you like Cheetos, this is just for fun, and you find one that's really cool, like it looks like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, or let's see who they have in the museum. They've got the giraffe, the cheese gull, the cheese seahorse, and the orange lobster. Irregular Cheetos in the Cheetos Museum. Here it is, through August 15th. All right? Collect and showcase your own favorite Cheetos. All right? Grand prize, $50,000. All right? So this is worth at least one bag of Cheetos. Find a cool, strange one, and you might be able to pay off all the debt that you have incurred from buying a few extra bags of Cheetos to get in the contest. My guest today is really cool. This is Paul Davids, who is, he's got a great background beyond what we're going to be talking about today. But evidence for life after death, an atheist in heaven. This is the story of Forrest Ackerman. Paul Davids will keep you on the edge of your seat if you see the movie, read the book. Let's hear from him today. He's next, an atheist in heaven, with Paul Davids, next on Wendy's Coffee House.
This is KCMO, Kansas City's most stimulating talk.
Relax and enjoy a peaceful small-town summer day in historic Weston. Stroll the streets, listen to music, and explore one-of-a-kind shops with handmade goods crafted by local Weston artists. Hungry? Thirsty? You'll find everything you need, from comfort food to four-star dining. Pubs and pizza, homemade bread and pie. Summers are made for fun in Weston. Check out westonmo.com for our special events calendar.
In that afternoon zombie zone? Can't face the keyboard alone? Check out the coffee and the couches at Black Dog Coffee House. Meet a friend, study, or catch up on your office email. Black Dog serves locally roasted messenger coffee and Ibis Bakery yummies all day long. Black Dog Coffee House on 87th Street Parkway in Lenexa. Fun place. Great coffee. Good vibe. bdcoffeehouse.com.
Stop being drained by energy vampires. A full energy audit from Eric's Energy will expose the pesky problems plaguing your home. Weatherization, insulation, and other energy-saving technologies installed by experienced, reliable technicians will drive a stake through the heart of what's tormenting you. Call 816-537-5100 or visit us at ericsenergy.com. 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 Garlic optional.
At New Horizon Ranch, we believe that every child is capable of greatness. Over the last 10 years, unique programs, dedicated volunteers, and horse partners have helped children and adults of all ages improve physical strength, relational, and cognitive skills. Sometimes it's reading to our miniature horses, and sometimes it's riding. But it's always therapeutic and educational. Learn more about what we do and how you can get involved at newhorizonranch.org.
Give a gift that helps feed a city. The Giving Grove helps communities grow, harvest, and share healthy food by planting fruit trees, nuts, and berries at local Kansas City schools, churches, and in low-income, underserved neighborhoods. To date, the Giving Grove has planted nearly 1,500 fruit and nut trees, which will provide over 180 tons of fresh food each year over the life of these trees. You can help by planting a tree. A donation of $50 pays for the tree, supplies, and community education needed for caring of the trees. Visit givinggrove.org to donate your tree.
Unchain, unwind at Rico's for lunch. Enjoy classic, tasteful Italian cuisine in a unique hideaway at the southeast corner of College and Quivira. Ask about our daily lunch specials or enjoy a wood-fired pizza with a specialty salad. Our delicious lunch menu is complemented by a global wine selection, including 25 varietals served by the glass. Full menu featured at ricoskc.com. Join us for lunch weekdays at Rico's.
Lights flickering, feeling an occasional draft. Afraid to go to the basement because it smells too ghastly. Let Eric's Energy do a whole house energy assessment to locate the energy draining skeletons in your closet. Install quality conventional solar, geothermal, or other energy saving technologies for a happy, comfortable home. Call 816-537-5100 or visit us at ericsenergy.com. ERICSENERGY.com. That's ericsenergy.com.
Ibis Bakery. Crusted, organic, and wild. Homemade with locally sourced nuts, seeds, herbs, and fruit. Light and buttery baked on a stone hearth. French-inspired. Ibis Bakery. Watch the art of baking. Breads and pastries crafted to bring people together, best when shared. Our Lenexa Bakery is open Wednesday through Saturday, or find us at the Brookside or Overland Park Farmers Market. IbisBakery.com.
Traffic and weather together first on the Force on KCMO.
I love the way this ends and begins. Phantom of the Opera music. Fabulous. Okay, there's a reason for this too. An Atheist in Heaven, my guest today, Paul Davids, is known for several of his movies, several of his... The UFO stuff we can't even get into today because it's off topic, but maybe we can. Anyway, one of my favorite movies that he did was Starry Night. The one that's most recent that has to do with this is the Life After Death Project, the story of Forrest Ackerman and how he became involved in Paul's life in a huge way without Paul ever anticipating it, because this is basically the last person you would expect to hear from after death because, hey, he's done. He's been there. Paul, I appreciate you getting up at 4 a.m., okay? Thank you first for that. And I'm looking forward to sharing your story today.
Well, thank you very much. And I noticed that Phantom of the Opera music at the beginning of your show.
Thought it might set the tone for you.
It was one of Fari's favorite things. You know, he was a collector of everything horror and science fiction and fantasy. He lived in this 18-room mansion absolutely crammed full of every piece of memorabilia that he could find that related to all those kinds of movies and books. So he was Mr. Science Fiction, and he was an atheist. And that's how my new book gets the title, An Atheist in Heaven.
Okay, for people who aren't familiar with him, born 1916, died 2008, a lot of people who are sci-fi fans may be very familiar with him, but those who aren't, can you give us an overview?
Yeah, growing up, being born in 1916, he grew up with the silent movies, and he was a massive promoter of everything science fiction and unusual, and including the horror movies. In 1958, he launched his magazine that he did with publisher James Warren. It was called Famous Monsters of Filmland, and with Fari as the editor, it went on for about 200 issues. It's still being published today by a man named Philip Kim, who lists the deceased Fari still as the editor-in-chief. So Fari was the expert in all such things. Ray Bradbury called his house the Fort Knox of science fiction.
Oh.
That's where the gold was. And Fari had a tremendous sense of humor. You know, when I was growing up, I gravitated toward those early issues of Famous Monsters. I stuck with it because his sense of humor just radiated through the magazine with all the captions of the photos of the monsters. You know, every single picture had, sometimes very corny little puns, but Fari loved wordplay and word games and twisting words to make a point. And that's part of the reason that I came to understand and conclude, after much resistance on my part, because I was quite a skeptic, but I came to conclude that he was reaching out to me after he died. And he did say before he passed away that if he was wrong about there being no life after death, he made a joke out of it. He said, look, if I wake up to the big science fiction convention in the sky, I'll spend a lot of time with all my old favorite horror actors and producers and my wife, Wendy, he said, but if the party dies down at some point, he says, maybe I would drop you a line, let you know. He said, but don't count on it, because he really was a disbeliever. So the fact that so many strange things began happening after we had a huge tribute for him a couple months after he died. This all started March 2009. And when these strange things started happening, after I was one of the many speakers at his tribute, and I heard from 2 filmmakers from Canada of the first contact from him, that they rapped on his crypt and they said they heard from him back within an hour. And, the story, it's all contained in the book, certainly, An Atheist in Heaven, the new book. That book comes 3 years after the film I made about this, because first came my film, The Life After Death Project, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
It was on Sci-Fi Channel. So I began this, when these things started happening, as a recorder of the facts, the evidence, using my video camera. Scientists became involved in studying this evidence. This took me to 3 universities that became intensely involved in examining the physical evidence. Was it proof that Fari was contacting me? And what happened to those scientists is as good a story as what happened to me, because they began having incidents that they couldn't explain, that seemed to have Fari's personalities behind it, and they could never explain the core evidence in the case. They could never reproduce it. It's been an adventure.
One of the guys who's with you on this is Gary Schwartz, and he's the one who's done a lot of research with mediums and trying to validate and verify their content. And so he's at, Arizona University?
At Tucson.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
and Gary is a co-author of An Atheist in Heaven, and he appears in the Life After Death Project, explaining his work and his research. It's not, in his case, he's so interested in life after death. Let me go back a step and say he has a Ph.D. from Harvard.
mm-hmm.
He taught psychology at Yale. This is a top person in his field. He's written many books about his research on life after death, and his collaboration with me on An Atheist in Heaven is his latest contribution. But yes, his intense interest has been in 2 areas. One is mediums. Can we find mediums, psychics, if you will, who are real, that bring us real information they couldn't know another way, that we can verify? And so he's had so many mediums in his laboratory, and he's separated out those who are the pretenders or the wannabes. But he has found a core group of people he's studied that have extraordinary abilities that science basically doesn't recognize, because science still turns a cold shoulder toward, the mainstream,
yeah,
the skeptical community. But Gary brought some to this research that did extraordinary things.
Well,
he also studies instrumental transcommunication, which is the use of instrumental devices to contact what we think of as the spirit world. We don't know what it is really, but surviving spirits, personalities. Some people think in terms of ghosts. This has a difference to it than in your ghost shows on TV, people are going into houses or cemeteries or wherever they're going, contacting, making attempts to reach people they never knew. They don't have any idea who it is that they might be in touch with.
The difference between what Gary does and what the ghost shows do, they're kicking the tires. Gary's going in the vehicle and getting the contents.
He is.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, he's had some extraordinary results, and I've kept in touch with the skeptical community throughout, because I have a degree from Princeton. I was pre-med there. I took all the science courses through organic chemistry. Turned out I didn't go to medical school. I went to Hollywood, and I've made about 10 movies now. I was one of the founders of the original Transformers show. People don't know that, but if you look at the original cartoons, you'll find Paul Davids emblazoned on 79 of them as production coordinator.
Yay!
And then I wrote Star Wars books for George Lucas.
With your wife.
I made the film Roswell for Showtime about the UFO crash that's claimed in 1947 New Mexico. and from then went on to make about 10 independent films, of which we're just talking about a couple of them. So, I had my feet on the ground. I took a scientific approach. I stayed in touch with the skeptical community. Michael Shermer, the publisher of Skeptic magazine, and he's also the executive director of the Skeptic Society in Pasadena, or Altadena, California. He appeared in the Life After Death project. And, his attitude is, look, life after death, I'm for it. Who's not for it? He says, but, can we prove it? Can we take these anecdotes and these stories that people have told, or near-death experiences, or claims of reincarnation, and claims of ghost and after-death contact? Where's the meat there? He keeps asking. Give us the case that we can bring science to it. And he respected my research so much that he signed one of his books to me. And he said to Paul, in respect of your honest search and your integrity. So for those who've said, oh, Paul Davids, Hollywood producer, making it all up, you got to be having no. I'm telling the truth. Everything in An Atheist in Heaven and the Life After Death project really happened. It's backed up by as many photos and as much evidence as I can. I've had scientific contributors to both projects, and the chemists who studied the evidence John Allison, chemistry professor, wrote a couple of the chapters in An Atheist in Heaven, telling how the incident so baffled him and how things began happening to him.
See, I love this.
It's for real. And I wrote a sworn affidavit at the beginning, swearing as if I was testifying in court that I'm not making this up. I'm not exaggerating. The 100 or so things that happened to me after Fari died that I describe in this, they all really happen, and they all suggest something really strange going on here, that this relationship is continuing after Fari died.
Well, and you also include the photos. You include as much as you can the background details to give people an idea, like there's some license plate info there. We're going to get into that after the break. But all of this stuff, you try to corroborate, you try to offer information. And by including Gary's also the author of the Afterlife experiments, and he's done extensive research with that, trying to validate. You gave him such a wonderful piece of ongoing, real-time information that he's so involved that he also has his experiences. And that, I think, brings just one more layer of credibility, because for you being a first-time experiencer going, okay, this is just me having my wonderful delusion and it's going to make a great movie, and him going, I think there's more to it, giving you validation. So you stop questioning yourself and backtracking and just go full face into it and say, all right, what happens, happens. And Forrest gets to just laugh at us all.
That's all true, but, I never thought of this as a wonderful delusion. I do think of it as a wonderful phenomena. And it sounds like after the break we'll continue.
Well, we better. You can't go back to bed just yet.
Thank you.
Talking with Paul Davids. He's the author of An Atheist in Heaven. He's a whole lot more than that. But this is the possible ultimate evidence for life after death, with the very cooperative and highly engaging and active afterlife presence of Forrest Ackerman. It is absolutely fascinating. Check out the video, the movie, the DVD, if you can, because that's also another backstory on this. And then read the book, because all the content, the details, the fine print is in the book. It was so worth waiting for. An Atheist in Heaven, my guest today, Paul Davids, coming back next on Wendy's Coffee House, Talk Radio KCMO.
Unchain, unwind at Rico's for lunch. Enjoy classic, tasteful Italian cuisine in a unique hideaway at the southeast corner of College and Quivira. Ask about our daily lunch specials or enjoy a wood-fired pizza with a specialty salad. Our delicious lunch menu is complemented by a global wine selection, including 25 varietals served by the glass. Full menu featured at ricoskc.com. Join us for lunch weekdays at Rico's.
Saturday mornings, Wendy's Coffee House on Talk Radio KCMO is a break from the daily routine. We explore the unusual, the unexplained, the curious. In the archives now, the Haunted House Diaries with Bill Hall, a 50-year account of daily diary entries that talk about experiences with the paranormal, ongoing experiences that continue even now, a break from the daily routine, and adventures for the curious. Wendy's Coffee House on Talk Radio KCMO and wendyscoffeehouse.com.
CBS News Update. Some of this may still be going on in scattered parts of Turkey, but the coup has failed. Through an interpreter, the Prime Minister proclaimed,
"Our nation in this incident has shown a great resilience."
Reporter Dorian Jones is in Istanbul.
The Prime Minister has said that all the key locations are now back in control by the government. They said there may be a few pockets of resistance left, but they said those will soon be dealt with, and that any remaining planes of the coup do appear to have returned to base, and they now control the air as well.
But not without a cost. More than 160 people were killed in the uprising, a number of them civilians. More than 2,800 arrests, most of those military who were in on the coup. 8 possible plotters took a military helicopter to Greece looking for political asylum. They were arrested. CBS News Update, I'm Dave Barrett.
KCMO weather from KCTV5.
Most of our Saturday morning looks pretty dry, mostly clear as well. A mix of clouds and sun by the afternoon as highs reach the mid-80s. By the evening, partly cloudy skies, and those temperatures are really just going to slide back down into the lower 80s and 70s. I'm Storm Track 5 meteorologist Ronell Williams.
Relax and enjoy a peaceful small-town summer day in historic Weston. Stroll the streets, listen to music, and explore one-of-a-kind shops with handmade goods crafted by local Weston artists. Hungry? Thirsty? You'll find everything you need, from comfort food to 4-star dining. Pubs and pizza, homemade bread and pie. Summers are made for fun in Weston. Check out westonmo.com for our special events calendar. When a nightlight speaks and only you can understand it, do you listen? Or pretend that your imagination is merely playing tricks? Talking to Nightlights is a revitalizing spiritual guide that follows a woman's inspirational journey to learn the power that can be harnessed by losing fear and suspending disbelief. Available now on Kindle and paperback at Amazon.com.
Stop being drained by energy vampires. A full energy audit from Eric's Energy will expose the pesky problems plaguing your home. Weatherization, insulation, and other energy-saving technologies installed by experienced, reliable technicians will drive a stake through the heart of what's tormenting you. Call 816-537-5100 or visit us at ericsenergy.com. 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 Garlic optional. Saturday mornings, Wendy's Coffee House on Talk Radio KCMO is a break from the daily routine. We explore the unusual, the unexplained, the curious. In the archives now, the Haunted House Diaries with Bill Hall, a 50-year account of daily diary entries that talk about experiences with the paranormal, ongoing experiences that continue even now, a break from the daily routine, and adventures for the curious. Wendy's Coffee House on Talk Radio KCMO and wendyscoffeehouse.com.
Carson in the morning.
Here they are going after sodas. So this was an excuse to jack up taxes for whatever perceived budget problems they had, including their city benefits. What about candy? What about ho-hos? What about Twinkies? I mean, what the hell?
That's next, man. That's
I know it is. I know it is. And it's absurd on the face of it. I tell you what, if you eat enough rice, you'll get fat. No matter what you eat, the number of calories is going to make you fat, okay? I mean, if you eat lettuce all day, okay, you will lose weight. You'll die, but you will lose weight.
Carson in the morning, weekday morning 6 to 10, KCMO, Kansas City. On the air at 103.7 FM and AM 710. Kansas City's most stimulating talk.
I never dreamed that any mere physical experience could be so stimulating.
KCM.
Oh!
KCMO.
An Atheist in Heaven, the name of the book, The Ultimate Evidence for Life After Death. Paul Davids and Gary Schwartz talking with Paul Davids. And the deal with this, we were talking earlier about the vetting that came from the scientists. There are 3 universities named, the labs, Indiana University, College of New Jersey, and University of Arizona. These folks also participated in trying to validate, corroborate some of the manifestations. They had a chemical analysis, forensic document examination, the whole 9 yards, to see if Paul was receiving real stuff, if it could be verified in some way, quantified scientifically. And the conclusion is, yes, it can. And Paul, just as a beginning, what was the first thing that made your stomach turn, as in that stomach turn of, oh my gosh, this is real? What happened that made you begin to get that connection with Forry?
After his tribute in March of 2009, I had heard at the tribute from two filmmakers who were from Canada and had made a biofilm about Forry, and they showed it at the tribute. I heard their tale of having gone to his crypt. They filmed themselves at his crypt that day, the tribute, and one of them, Mike McDonald, rapped on the crypt, said, "Hello, Forry, we've come from Canada. We're so happy we're going to be at your tribute. We've brought our film." And they had a story about how they heard from him within an hour on their computers. I won't go into all the details here. You can see the details in the film, the DVD, Life After Death Project, or read about it in An Atheist in Heaven, those details. But for me, the personal involvement, though I found that very curious, it's when it hits you personally with something that happens. And for me, it was about a week later. I was alone in our Santa Fe vacation house, and my wife couldn't come with me on that trip. I was alone there. Doors are locked. We have a security system. There was definitely no one else in the house. And the essence of what happened was I had printed a document that I was going to go over for tax review of phone calls and business lunches of the previous year. And it was 24 pages, and I looked it over. It was completely normal. And an hour and a half passed from the time it was printed till the time I put it on my bed. I was going to get into bed and look it over. And I was out of the room for 5 minutes. When I came back into the room and I looked at the document, I could see immediately it had been changed. That ink of some kind or a dye or paint or something had darkened 4 of the words on the front page, and whatever was used was still moist, still actually wet. Now, normally you'd think when you rule out printer error, because it happened an hour and a half earlier and the ink had been dry, you'd say, well, did water drip from a leaky ceiling? Is there a leaky pen in the bed? But this wasn't like that because it was very precise. It was neatly done. And it was obvious that that part of the page had been selected, targeted, for those words to be blacked out. And I could see they were blacked out in 2 different levels. The first 2 words you could still sort of read. The second 2 words completely opaqued. And as I said, still moist. So I was absolutely in shock. Why? Because unless you're in an episode of The Twilight Zone, that can't happen. In my conception of reality, it can't happen. There was no one else physically present who could do it, and yet it was clearly deliberate, it was neat. And then you think in terms of, oh my God, is it a message? And I learned what the first thing you think of in a situation like that. You're horrified because, it was like the black spot you think of. What's that in fiction? The pirates and their black spot. If you get the black spot, it's a warning you're going to die.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Either you're going to drop dead or somebody's going to kill you. So, I was frightened. And I felt as though I'm in presence of a ghost of some kind, a demon. What is this? And I told it to basically get out of there. It wasn't welcome unless it had my best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There was no need to be frightened because as this case unraveled, as I became aware of what the meaning was of the blackout of those 4 words, as other things began to happen, one after the next, that all seemed to have Fari's mischievous smile behind it, I came to realize that he was keeping his word with me, that after he died, if there's life after death, he said, maybe I'll drop you a line. He was an editor. He literally dropped me a line. He dropped me a line on a document. It's what he did all his life. He edited. And I found examples of his editing exactly in the same format of, the sort of anal compulsive blackout of the whole thing neatly, that he would do on manuscripts. It took a lot of research, but I found that. And also the message. The message, I'm not going to tell all the details here.
Yeah.
You want me to?
Well.
You want me to?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we leave something for people to, to read the book?
You can leave
it's
just
a long book. There's,
I know. You can leave a little bit.
Incidents.
Do a little more teasing. Just a little more teasing. Yes.
Okay. Here's the thing. Fari's closest companion of his last 10 years was a wonderful Hawaiian fellow named Jomo, who had started out as a fan for Fari's and had moved into the Acker mansion and helped him organize everything. And when Fari had to move out of the big Acker mansion to a smaller one, because at his advanced age he just couldn't handle it anymore, couldn't handle all the stairs.
Yeah.
Joe helped him with the move. Joe moved into the new house with him. So totally loyal person. And Joe had helped organize the tribute. And I said his name was Jomo. Well, unbeknownst to me at that time, Joe had had an apparition of Fari, a full-blown apparition after the tribute. A couple days later, he said it was just moments before awakening. It was that Fari came into his room and teasingly thanked him for the tribute. And he said that those moments were more real than life itself. It was like a super reality. And that when he actually woke up, everything in his room was the same. Everything was right where it was, but no more Fari. Fari wasn't there. But Joe, like Fari, was maybe not an atheist, but he was certainly a skeptic. And his tendency was to say, look, was this a hallucination? Did this happen because I would have wanted this to happen so much? But it was so real. He said it was as if Fari came and spoke to me. He told me this when I eventually talked to him on the phone about it. Well, the words that were blocked out on my document were, spoke to Joe Amode. Now, that was there because I'd had a conversation on a certain day in 2008 with a man named Joe Amode, who I didn't really know, but he was a film distributor out of New York, and I queried him about, was he interested in my film Jesus in India? That finished, I think it was 2007, and he wasn't interested in getting involved with the DVD, and that was it. So I had nothing further with Joe Amode. But, as I said, Fari loved words within words and names within names. And in the book, An Atheist in Heaven, I give so many examples, in Famous Monsters, where he used that little word twist to make you smile or laugh or make a point.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized that what I had here was spoke to Joe, that the name Mo is right there in the middle of Amode.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a message there, and it's spoke to Joe Mo. Well, who spoke to Joe Mo? Forrest J. Ackerman spoke to Joe Mo after he was deceased, and he thanked him for the tribute. A tribute where I had been one of the speakers, so he's letting me know. I spoke to Joe, thanked him, talked to Joe, he'll confirm it. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's just crazy, but that's what I thought it was after this much information, but I wanted science to explain it and disprove all this for me if they could. And that took me first to Indiana University, to the chairman of the chemistry department, Dr. J. Siegel, absolute expert forensic chemistry, writes many textbooks, testifies in trials when there's chemical evidence, testified in I think it was the William Kennedy Smith trial. So Jay Siegel said, yes, I'll look at that ink. We'll submit it to tests in the lab. I brought my video camera. We filmed everything. And Dr. Siegel was mystified. After spectrographic analysis, he didn't get the answers he wanted. And here's a man who's a world-class expert in inks, dyes, paints, solvents. So he then sends me to New Jersey to Dr. John Allison in his lab at the College of New Jersey. They had worked together for years in this kind of research at Michigan State. And from the day I arrived to see John Allison, weird stuff starts happening to him, some of which we caught on camera. And you can see live as it happened in the Life After Death Project. And I have to emphasize again, for all those who have accused me of having concocted this, I have concocted nothing. I have reported the truth. That's my mission here. I want people to know that my great friend of decades has continued this friendship with me after he died. And I think for people to know that that's possible, it gives us a hope. It gives us a new way of looking at life. And that's my purpose here.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break again. But when we come back after the break, I want the most current incident of your engagement with Forry. The most recent thing has happened in a date, just to give people an idea that this is an amazing story. Again, an atheist in heaven, my guest, Paul Davids. We're going to do a little short break here and come back with what the most recent thing has been in terms of connection with Forrest J. Ackerman. Wendy's Coffee House.
Lights flickering, feeling an occasional draft. Afraid to go to the basement because it smells too ghastly. Let Eric's Energy do a whole house energy assessment to locate the energy draining skeletons in your closet. Install quality conventional solar, geothermal, or other energy-saving technologies for a happy, comfortable home. Call 816-537-5100 or visit us at ericsenergy.com. ERICSENERGY.com. That's ericsenergy.com.
When a nightlight speaks and only you can understand it, do you listen? Or pretend that your imagination is merely playing tricks? Talking to Nightlights is a revitalizing spiritual guide that follows a woman's inspirational journey to learn the power that can be harnessed by losing fear and suspending disbelief. Available now on Kindle and paperback at Amazon.com.
In that afternoon zombie zone? Can't face the keyboard alone? Check out the coffee and the couches at Black Dog Coffee House. Meet a friend, study, or catch up on your office email. Black Dog serves locally roasted messenger coffee and Ibis Bakery yummies all day long. Black Dog Coffee House on 87th Street Parkway in Lenexa. Fun place. Great coffee. Good vibe. bdcoffeehouse.com.
Relax and enjoy a peaceful small-town summer day in historic Weston. Stroll the streets, listen to music, and explore one-of-a-kind shops with handmade goods crafted by local Weston artists. Hungry? Thirsty? You'll find everything you need, from comfort food to four-star dining. Pubs and pizza, homemade bread and pie. Summers are made for fun in Weston. Check out westonmo.com for our special events calendar. Unchain, unwind at Rico's for lunch. Enjoy classic, tasteful Italian cuisine in a unique hideaway at the southeast quarter of College and Quivira. Ask about our daily lunch specials or enjoy a wood-fired pizza with a specialty salad. Our delicious lunch menu is complemented by a global wine selection, including 25 varietals served by the glass. Full menu featured at ricoskc.com. Join us for lunch weekdays at Rico's.
Saturday mornings, Wendy's Coffee House on Talk Radio KCMO is a break from the daily routine. We explore the unusual, the unexplained, the curious. In the archives now, the Haunted House Diaries with Bill Hall, a 50-year account of daily diary entries that talk about experiences with the paranormal, ongoing experiences that continue even now, a break from the daily routine, and adventures for the curious. Wendy's Coffee House on Talk Radio KCMO and wendyscoffeehouse.com.
Carson in the morning.
Jay Nixon, by the way, he vetoed that gun bill that was on his desk, and it would have relaxed current safeguards for concealed guns, among other things. It also would create a stand your ground right. I still don't completely understand stand your ground and what the problem is. Dennis, the murder rate is, since Kansas adopted these similar concealed carry relaxing of the laws, the murder rate has gone through the ceiling, hasn't it?
In Kansas?
It's gone through. Literally,
no.
blood flowing in the streets.
No.
Really, nothing?
No.
The bill would also expand the castle doctrine by allowing invited guests like babysitters to use deadly force if confronted in homes. So if the guy with the scream mask is calling you from within your house, you don't know, and you find out suddenly, I'm right behind you, then you can actually, as a babysitter, we could have gotten rid of all those teen flicks where babysitters get murdered if we just allowed babysitters to grab the concealed carry weapon in the house and blow them away.
Carson in the morning, weekday morning 6 to 10.
Can't get enough of the political drama? Tune to this station to hear the veteran political reporters who can explain all the developments and their impact on you. John Dickerson.
The wiggle room could go either way.
Bob Schieffer.
Something that wouldn't do credit to a group of 10-year-olds out on the playground.
Major Garrett, Nancy Cordes, Stephen Portnoy, and me, Dan Raviv, and more. Campaign 2016. The nation elects a new president on this station and CBS Radio News.
KCMO, Kansas City's most stimulating talk.
Why don't you talk into the microphone? I got a backup mic right here. Check 1, 2, testing.
KCMO, Kansas City.
Wendy's Coffee House, Talk Radio, KCMO. An Atheist in Heaven. That's my topic with Paul Davids today. The book, The Ultimate Evidence for Life After Death, is it? It certainly sounds like it. It's really compelling, and if you have a chance, do both the movie and the book, because you get a ton of content. And this is so fantastic. My producer told me, hey, I'm looking at Peter Jackson and Forrest Ackerman and Paul Davids on the page here at lifeafterdeathproject.com. Yeah, you've got a laundry list of celebrity contacts that makes it really a compelling case that you're right there in the middle of Hollywood, and this is a real thing. You don't have to make any of this stuff up with your experience with Forrest. That's how phenomenal it is.
Well, he influenced so many people who, as children, took an interest in science fiction and making movies because of his magazine. And these are the people who went on to sort of define science fiction and create many of the really, really big films that are today one of America's biggest exports to the world. I'm talking about Lucas and Spielberg and Peter Jackson and Guillermo del Toro and Rick Baker, who has 10 Academy Awards, and Dennis Muren, who has 10 Academy Awards, and writer Stephen King. They all grew up under the wonderful influence of this mischievous man. We all called him Uncle Forrest. So he had this great, strong influence. It's spectacular that he's, reaching back from wherever he is right now to make his presence known, and doing it in so many strange ways, whether it's synchronicities or physical phenomena or apports or instrumental transcommunication, those things that have happened with computers and video recorders and electronic voice phenomena. There's so many different things. Now, you asked me, what is the most recent? I want to talk about some of the more recent things that have happened. And it's been since 2009 now, and the fact these kinds of things continue. And some of them you just sort of say, well, it could be coincidence. For example, when I went to the premiere of a film the other night in Hollywood and at the Chinese theater, and I find my wife and I are sitting next to a producer of science fiction films whose name is Greg Ackerman. It's Forrest's name. Well, he said, well, that's an interesting coincidence. You played the music of Phantom of the Opera at the beginning of this. It was one of Forrest's favorites. And I want to say my iPod has acted really strangely, because normally you set it on a song or an artist, and that's what it plays. And there was a time when I'd set it for the music of Bob Dylan, and I was listening to his songs again and again. That iPod shouldn't switch to something else by itself. But on an afternoon when I spent the afternoon talking about Forrest J. Ackerman with two people who had been his close friends. I got back in my car, and immediately the iPod had switched itself to the Phantom of the Opera. And it burst out with those opening bars of the music that you played, bah, 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 bah. And it's like, what? You know what? Fari collected everything he could from the Phantom of the Opera going back to the silent movie days.
Wow.
Even Lon Chaney's makeup kit for that movie, Fari owned.
Wow.
And then sometimes my iPod switches to something that, called Vampire Weekend. Well, Fari was Mr. Famous Monsters. So in his magazine, he had all kinds of stuff, fiction, of course, about vampires. So that, those are the strange things. When I landed in Albuquerque recently, I had time to spend before meeting somebody for lunch, and I walked into a random comic book store, and there found a statue of Forrest J. Ackerman, which I bought. I mean, what are the chances of finding a statue? Now, a friend of mine was with me on that trip who had brought a copy of Famous Monsters that had he took the final official photo of Fari, and that was in that magazine. But what was also in that magazine was Fari's explanation that he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in life after death, but he says, if it turns out I'm wrong, I'm going to give your regards to Boris Karloff, and Peter Lorre and Bela Lugosi and all these, horror actors.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned his friend Joe Moe right there in that paragraph. Okay, so strange that it pops up again for me, and I take a picture of it with my iPhone. I take a picture of that page of Fari's statements about that.
Uh-huh.
Now, for the next few days, I'm taking more and more pictures. This was again in Santa Fe. I'm with friends. We're at lunch. I take a picture. And each time I go to take the picture, check the picture that I just took of them, of our lunch, that isn't what comes up. It's the page I took from that Famous Monsters of Fari saying, if there's a life after death, I'll give your regards to Boris Karloff. I mean, why that, continuing to show up?
Because the regards are still coming. All right.
They're still coming all over the place. Even on your show, I did another show with you where we had the advertisement, come to the forest, from the Forest Service.
You betcha. Yes. So there's the call. And Paul, keep documenting this because it's so fantastic and it's so real. And we're out of time. I got to let you go. But
okay. So the movie is The Life After Death Project. The book, Atheist in Heaven. Find them at Amazon.
And do it ASAP, and we'll talk about it next time on Wendy's Coffee House, right here on Talk Radio KCMO. Remember, stay curious. There's a whole lot of stuff out there worth your attention.